Here's the twist that nobody's talking about. When the United States government started restricting Anthropic's international operations, it probably thought it was slowing down a potential threat. But it might have actually just handed Anthropic the most valuable free marketing campaign in tech history. This is the weird part. A government trying to hold back a company sometimes ends up making that company look way more important, way more capable, and infinitely more attractive to investors. Think of it like this. When a parent tells a teenager they can't have something, that thing instantly becomes way more desirable. It's called the Streisand Effect. By publicly worrying about Anthropic, United States regulators basically told the entire world that this is the AI company worth paying attention to. They said, "We are so concerned about this one that we are restricting what it can do." And in Silicon Valley, government concern is basically the same as government validation. Anthropic makes Claude, a conversational AI assistant focused on being helpful, harmless, and honest. It's genuinely good at reasoning, coding, and complex analysis. Most people didn't really know that until governments started talking about restricting it. Now every policy discussion mentions Anthropic. Every news cycle features it. Every restriction is basically free press, keeping the brand in headlines. The really clever part, there might not even be a formal complete ban yet. What we are seeing is scrutiny, anticipation, and possible tariffs. But that ambiguity is almost more powerful than an outright ban because it creates intrigue. And here's where it gets interesting. To understand why this matters, we need to rewind and see what actually happened. Anthropic isn't some mysterious startup hiding in the shadows. It's a pretty serious AI safety company founded in 2021 by former OpenAI researchers, including Dario Amodei. Their whole mission is to build AI that's genuinely safe and aligned with human values, not just powerful and fast. That mission matters to regulators because when you build something powerful, governments want to know it's not going to spiral out of control. Claude, their main product, started getting real traction around 2023 and 2024. Suddenly, it was competing with ChatGPT and other models. Suddenly, it was good enough that people were switching to it, trusting it with serious work, and recommending it to others. That's when the spotlight got uncomfortable. Governments in the United States, Europe, and elsewhere started asking questions. If Anthropic's AI is this capable, what happens if other countries get it? What if it's used for misinformation? What if it helps bad actors? These aren't unreasonable questions for regulators to ask. But here's the thing, every question raised in Parliament, every news article about potential restrictions, every government committee meeting about AI safety, they all mention Anthropic by name. They all highlight Claude's capabilities. They all, in effect, advertise Anthropic's existence to millions of people who'd never heard of it. For a company fighting for mindshare against OpenAI's massive lead, that's incredibly valuable. It's the kind of attention money can't buy. But wait, there's something nobody's talking about. Here's how the paradox actually works at a fundamental level. When a company faces government scrutiny or potential bans, three things happen almost instantly. First, the media covers it intensely. Every tech publication, mainstream news outlet, and social media platform starts discussing the restricted company. That's free advertising worth millions. Second, the company gets framed as important and powerful. If governments are worried, it must be doing something right. Third, the restriction creates scarcity and artificial demand. If something's hard to get, people want it more. Anthropic is experiencing all three right now. Look at the numbers. Before government scrutiny became a headline, maybe a few million people actively knew about Claude. Now, after months of government considering restrictions coverage, Claude has brand recognition that OpenAI spent years and billions building. Anthropic didn't pay for that. The government created it. There's a historical playbook here. Think about how Apple's Macintosh was basically a niche product until it became the computer the Microsoft-dominated establishment was supposedly trying to kill. Or how Tesla was treated as a joke until regulators started taking emissions rules seriously and people realized electric vehicles weren't going away. Or how Signal, the encrypted messaging app, saw downloads spike 4,200% after governments started warning about it. In each case, government concern translated directly into public interest and user adoption. The regulation itself became marketing. For Anthropic, the same dynamic is unfolding in real time. Every export control is a signal that Claude matters. Let's look at concrete examples where bans and restrictions actually helped companies. TikTok is probably the most famous one. When the United States government started threatening to ban TikTok or force its sale, what happened? Downloads exploded. American users realized they might lose their favorite app and started inviting everyone to the platform while they still could. The app went from that thing kids use to a household name that literally everyone was discussing. TikTok's user engagement in the United States climbed significantly during the ban threat period. The controversy was better marketing than any Super Bowl ad. Or consider Huawei. When the United States restricted Huawei and told countries not to use their technology, what did happen? Huawei actually invested more heavily in some Asian and European markets. By being restricted in the United States, it looked like a premium alternative to American tech in other regions. It became the phone the Western powers didn't want you to have, which made it more desirable, not less. Signal, the encrypted messaging app, saw a massive surge in downloads after Edward Snowden recommended it and governments started scrutinizing encryption tools. The restriction threat became the best endorsement imaginable. Then there's Spotify, which actually benefited from government scrutiny into streaming rights and AI training data. Every time regulators investigated Spotify, it generated headlines. Every headline mentioned Spotify's size and influence. The controversy became proof of dominance. For Anthropic, the pattern is identical. Here's where the comparison gets really interesting. Anthropic doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's competing directly with OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Microsoft, and a dozen other AI labs building massive models. OpenAI has ChatGPT, which launched earlier and captured the public's imagination first. Google has Gemini, but Anthropic has something those other companies don't have right now: a compelling government controversy. OpenAI faces criticism. Sure, but it's mostly internal debates about safety, leadership drama, questions about alignment. Those are real issues, but they are less visible to mainstream people. Google and Microsoft, they're too big. They're already in every conversation. But Anthropic is different. It's focused, sharp, and it's suddenly the center of a genuine policy debate. That narrative makes it stand out. When someone wonders which AI should I use, the options are ChatGPT, which everyone knows, or Claude, which they've just heard is so powerful that governments are worried about it. For a company competing on technical merit and trust, that's a significant advantage. Here's the other angle. Anthropic has positioned itself as the AI safety company. It emphasizes alignment, transparency, and being careful about what it releases. When governments express concern, that concern actually validates Anthropic's whole approach. The company can say, look, we take this so seriously that governments are paying attention. The restriction becomes proof that Anthropic's safety-first philosophy is necessary and important. It's actually perfect branding. No competitor can claim that their company is so focused on safety that governments are restricting them. If you zoom out, what we're actually seeing is a massive change in how AI companies compete globally. Anthropic was always going to be a significant player. Claude is genuinely capable and the team is talented. But scale and brand reach matter enormously in tech. Most people don't choose an AI assistant based on technical specifications. They choose the one they've heard of, the one their friends use, the one that seems trustworthy. Government scrutiny has just handed Anthropic insanely valuable brand positioning at a critical moment in AI adoption. Let's think about what happens next. If regulations actually get enforced, if there are real restrictions on Anthropic's exports or operations, what changes? The company becomes more valuable, not less valuable. Why? Because being restricted in the United States market means Anthropic focuses on the international market, where it already has growing presence. It becomes the alternative to American dominance in AI. Other countries that want tech independence from the United States start actively choosing Claude. European companies, Asian companies, companies in the Middle East, they all have reasons to prefer an AI system that's not controlled by the big American tech giants. Anthropic gets to rebrand from challenger to OpenAI to the AI company that stands up to government overreach. That's a more compelling narrative. The paradox is that a ban meant to limit Anthropic could actually accelerate its international expansion, and help it compete against OpenAI's dominance. And this is what changes everything. If you're running a company and suddenly facing government scrutiny, here's what the playbook looks like based on what works. First, transparency. Don't hide from the scrutiny, acknowledge it, explain your position, and show you're taking it seriously. Anthropic has done this well by being vocal about AI safety. Second, consistency. If you're going to position yourself as the responsible option, then actually be the responsible option. Anthropic backs this up with a whole safety team and published research. Third, narrative control. Don't let the government control the story, tell your own. Frame restrictions not as punishment, but as validation that your work is important enough to matter. Fourth, product excellence. All the good PR in the world doesn't help if your product doesn't deliver. Claude has to keep getting better, smarter, and more useful. The restrictions are a gift only if the underlying product justifies the attention. Fifth, patience. These dynamics play out over months and years, not weeks. Anthropic's leadership clearly understands that. They're not panicking about potential restrictions, they're using them strategically. They're releasing new features, improving capabilities, and staying focused on the mission. Sixth, investor relations. Good news for Anthropic. When governments take you seriously enough to restrict you, investors take you seriously too. Funding becomes easier. Valuation climbs. Restrictions become a credibility marker in boardrooms and venture capital firms. The lesson is simple. Here's what this story means for you if you're paying attention to the AI race. First, watch how Anthropic's market share actually evolves over the next 6 months. If government scrutiny really is becoming free marketing, we should see measurable growth in Claude's adoption and daily active users. That's the real test of whether this theory holds up. Second, pay attention to how other AI companies respond. If OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft see Anthropic getting a boost from regulation, they might actually welcome more scrutiny themselves. That could accelerate the entire AI regulation conversation, which gets everyone more headlines. Third, understand that government policy and market dynamics don't always work the way officials expect. Sometimes, when you try to slow down a company, you accidentally help it. This doesn't mean governments are wrong to scrutinize powerful AI systems. They are not. It just means the actual effects of policy can be surprising and counterintuitive. Finally, if you're an investor or someone thinking about which AI company to bet on, this paradox matters. Anthropic might be the company that looked most vulnerable to restrictions, but actually ends up the strongest because of them. Government opposition doesn't always mean weakness. Sometimes it means you're doing something important enough that powerful people are taking notice. That's not always bad for business. Follow for daily AI news.